Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Beck Bode NoBondsCast here. I'm here with Karen O'Donoghue and Andrew Martone, two of our great financial advisors. We'll get a chance to make formal introductions and learn a little bit more about them and what they do on a regular basis and who they work with in a moment. First thing I want to do before we get started, particularly for those of you that are new to the NoBondsCast, you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm coming to a financial podcast, a talk about financial issues and such. Another reason why you may come to a podcast like this is that you have a vision. You have an idea, a dream about the future. And you come to a podcast like this because perhaps you think the biggest help that you need is understanding how to manage a portfolio of investments, or perhaps how to develop the best plan possible. And those things, while they are very, very important, they're not, in our experience, the biggest area in which most long-term investors need help. You need help because you're human. You need help because as a human being, we are all emotionally wired to make emotional decisions. And when we make emotional decisions, oftentimes when it involves money, those decisions don't result in the best outcome. So our vision as a firm, our value as a firm, while managing portfolios is something that we do and we do very well, it's not the biggest area that helps our clients out the most. While we spend a tremendous amount of time sitting with clients, learning about their goals and objectives, constructing a blueprint, a plan on how to get from point A to point B, whether that is how much money do I need to accumulate in order to retire on my terms. When I do retire, how do I stay comfortably retired? That is also a very important area, but it pales in comparison to the real work that we do, all as financial advisors, which is helping our clients understand the types of decisions that they will be faced with along that journey, leading up to retirement, and then throughout that journey on to the achievement of all their financial goals and dreams. So the very essence of our value proposition is discipline. It's the willingness, it's our ability to help clients avoid making the emotional decisions that serve as obstacles that get in the way of achieving these most cherished financial goals and dreams. And that's what we talk about here. And so today I've got some great financial advisors that have been with Beck Bode for a number of years. I'm going to introduce first Karen O'Donoghue from up in our Portsmouth office. And I want to ask Karen, if you don't mind, just to give a brief introduction of who you are, what you like to do.
Sure.
Anything that's on your mind.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Karen O'Donoghue. As Ben said, I am the financial advisor here in Beck Bode's Portsmouth office. I live on the seacoast as well as work here with my husband and 3 daughters and 2 dogs. My role here as a financial advisor is something that I truly enjoy. I really love working one-on-one with clients, understanding what it is that they're looking to do that's unique to them, and helping them kind of figure out a roadmap on how to get there.
Right.
And for me, it's all about, the consistency of, everyday behaviors that help further the plan, further getting towards those goals, but also the big life events. I think that's where, we can be most valuable. And that's the part of the work that I really love. So sometimes they're happy events and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they're unexpected, but I like the process of sort of evaluating each new situation as it comes about, and offering clients some guidance along the way, and running scenarios and different things like that, and the educational piece too. That's
Mm,
sure. Never thought of myself as a teacher before, but I think there's a little bit of that involved too. So
mm. Yeah, thank you for that, Karen. Yeah, and one of the words you use, guidance, there, which is a very interesting word, because guidance does not imply a one time period,
mm,
right? A one instance, but guidance is into perpetuity, essentially, right? It's ongoing. And um, working with clients, as you mentioned, through good times and bad times, and when they're facing obstacles and perhaps they're going through a job change, those are all interesting and emotional times with folks, certainly. So you've got a lot of experience, obviously, as a financial advisor, work with all different types of people, and as you mentioned, guiding them through different points and milestones of their lives. So no doubt you've been through the ups and downs of the markets and been right there next to clients along the way. What can you tell me? Doesn't necessarily have to be today's environment, but what can you tell me in terms of a question that you've received from a client, or maybe it's a common question that you receive from multiple clients, however differently they may ask it? Is there something that's top of mind for you today that you're hearing or you have heard out there that you think is relevant maybe to discuss?
sure. Well, this is sort of a broad question for you, Ben, but I think it could be beneficial to kind of revisit what our investment philosophy is,
Mm,
while we, sort of live and breathe it every day. For
mhm.
our clients, it could be, kind of a helpful refresher. And then I think what I'm hearing a lot lately is, how does that, uh, investment philosophy work when we're facing potentially a recession? That's something that I commonly get questions about right
Sure,
now. Is it
sure.
coming? Are we in one? Are we about to be in one? And what do we do in those
Yeah,
cases?
yeah. The latter part of that, certainly something that has been in the news quite a bit, right, over the past year or so. This prognostication or some prediction, yes, we are, no, we aren't, maybe we are, and all that. Yeah, no, certainly. So an overview of our investment strategy and our philosophy on investing, and then certainly the current environment and recession, and how does that work with how we operate? Sure. Yeah, our investment strategy is such, it was built upon the characteristics of very successful investors. So what I mean by that is, what are the very most common characteristics when you look at some of the most successful investors out there? And one of the things that came up was the fact that most every successful investor that I've ever met or I've ever learned about, from your Warren Buffetts to your Charlie Mungers to the list is long, is that each one of them has a game plan. And a game plan is, said differently, it's a strategy. And any type of relevant game plan has to be able to answer what we consider the three most critical questions in successful investing. And those three questions are: what do you buy? What kind of methodology or criteria do you focus on in order to identify what you're actually going to own in your portfolio as a long-term investor? The second is, when do you sell what you own? We know the future is a moving target. We know companies go through good times, they go through bad times. When is it that you sell something that you own? And then thirdly, when you do sell something, where do you reinvest the proceeds? Those three questions, at least how we operate, have to be answered before actually investing in the first place. This is not something that we make up along the way. These questions are firmly rooted in the methodology and the discipline and are answered first and foremost before we even get started. So a game plan is not only a very common characteristic of very successful investors, it's the foundation of how we operate as a firm. Second most important, not necessarily in order of importance, is information. Every successful investor that I've ever met has access, not only access to great information, and when I say information, I mean research about the different publicly traded companies out there in the world. They have the wherewithal and the know-how to use that information properly. And there's a lot of different pieces of information out there. We are in the information age. There's no question about it, right? I mean, information travels so fast, and some is good information, some is bad information. Could argue some of which that you see from a day-to-day basis isn't necessarily true, but there's an upper echelon of research that's out there that is really, really strong. And we're firm believers that the stronger the information that you have at your fingertips, the better your real life long-term return of your portfolio will be. So research is paramount. And third, very easy to say, very hard for us, again, as emotional creatures to exercise. And it's the simple word patience. You know, rarely do companies go from obscurity to prominence overnight. Rarely do the best performing investments just stand out there and appear to you when it's time to buy, right? It's something that takes time and takes ups and downs. And it takes a significant amount of patience as an individual investor, as a long-term investor, to accomplish, to be aboard, to realize the eventual long-term growth of a diversified portfolio. So the characteristics of very successful investors is what we focus on. It's our bedrock as a company, and we do not deviate from that. And that is essentially quantified in our firm as two strategies. We have a growth strategy that focuses on answering those three questions, and we actively manage that strategy across the whole spectrum, the whole universe of available publicly traded companies out there. And we employ that methodology of what do you buy, when do you sell, and where do you reinvest the proceeds. And then for the other part of the overall portfolio, if you think about a traditional portfolio, if you're watching right now and you know you're looking into your statements in your portfolio, the traditional portfolio has a allocation or a percentage in growth-oriented investments. And then it has an allocation into what you could call income-oriented investments, more stable long-term investments to balance or diversify the portfolio. We, given that the name of our podcast, you might imagine then, we are not big believers in bonds, and we utilize the stocks of electric utility companies to provide the income necessary and the growth of that income for our investors. And so the characteristics of successful investors are all encapsulated in those two strategies, and that's what we employ throughout our firm for all of our clients.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think your follow-up question then, correct me if I'm wrong, was, okay, well, you know, we're in or we're not in, or we don't know, or we're in a recessionary environment, right? So Karen, you've been doing this as a financial advisor for a long time. Undoubtedly, you've been through a number of recessionary environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you went to your memory, when you went through those environments, in how many of those did you make a decision or employ a tremendous change to what the client was doing from a portfolio or a planning strategy at that point?
Never.
Okay.
No.
This is a leading question, by the way. So stay tuned. Okay. And for all those long-term investors that you've had over time, in what condition are they today in terms of their financial plan?
Just as strong as they started out, and that's where we want them to be, for sure.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, obviously a leading question, right? And I sort of knew the answer to what you're going to say, certainly as I was asking it, but it's really important to hear that from you, of course, with your experience, because to your question and to your point, you hear a lot of questions from your clients and just out there in the financial industry, right? That, oh my gosh, we're in a recession, with the implication that, oh my gosh, we have to do something different. And the fact of the matter is, our opinion is recessions come and go. Whether or not we're in a recession now or not, or we're going to be, is very closely on the other end of the spectrum of irrelevant or immaterial to how our investors' futures look. These are short-term economic metrics or happenings that really have no relevance to the real life long-term return of our clients. And to your point, Karen, which I think is a strong one, is that you've been through a number of these, and forget whether it was a recession or not, you've certainly been through, as we all have, some really tough economic times and market times, right? Yet staying put, that boring word again, patience, staying put, staying disciplined to the plan that you put together, and with your counsel, with your guidance, helping clients block out that noise about, are we not, what should we do? So-and-so said we should be in this, or that, and just really, really allowing or redirecting their focus to, what are your goals? What are your objectives? What's the plan that we put together for those objectives, and sticking to that? So that's great. I appreciate that, that commentary. Let's turn over, if we could, to the other person on this. Andy has been a financial advisor, one of actually the first financial advisors with Beck Bode when we became an independent company. I'd love to hear a little bit about your path, Andy, and some of the things you've done that you're doing today.
Excellent. Well, first, thank you for having me on here. This is definitely checked the box on one of the bucket lists to be on a podcast. So now I'm thrilled that this is happening and right in front of us right now. But
you can only go down from here, right?
Yeah, that's what I figured. But I've been in the industry since 1990, so I've been around, and I truly just love it. But I've started at a mutual fund company, customer service, and worked my way up. And next thing you know, in the mid 90s, transferred out to Chicago to be a mutual fund wholesaler. And what I loved about it, and let me paint this picture, is I got to meet so many financial advisors throughout the country and here in New England. And my job essentially is to see if we can partner up and have them use our products with their clients. So I had plenty of client facing time and was able to tell our story. And as I'm meeting all these financial advisors and they're telling me about their investment philosophy, I'll tell you, more times than not, I would leave that meeting with my eyes just glazed over and not being able to understand what they're doing and how they're attaining client goals. And having met Jim before, I was able to get in front of you, Ben, at Merrill Lynch in the 2011-12 timeframe, and hearing your process and which hasn't changed. I remember leaving that meeting going, well, for one, you're not going to use any packaged products. You're not going to give me any business, but I understand what's going on. I understand what you're doing.
Yeah. And you've had, and interesting, because Karen's got such an interesting background in terms of working with clients, all different types of clients for a long period of time. Yours is just unique in its own right, just like Karen's, except you've been working in the financial industry itself with mutual funds and working with financial advisors. So you've had a very unique experience in terms of sort of like the catcher on the baseball field. You see all the different strategies that all different advisors are doing, right? And you get to see all these things. And I think it's interesting what you said there is you walk out of a meeting and your eyes glazed over. So I'm guessing what you mean by that is the methodology in terms of if I'm an investor and over time, I want you to put me and my family in the best financial situation possibly can, but I'm walking out of that meeting not really understanding how you're going to do it or why that's important to me. Is that accurate? Yeah.
That's 100% accurate. If I can't understand it, or you're showing me charts and I can't read that or understand it, and I'm in the industry, imagine someone who is not in the industry coming there and looking for guidance and doesn't even know enough to say, you know what, I don't understand this. If you understand it and you can repeat it, and it's scalable, it's something that we can run with. And that's what I saw with you guys. And so the fact that you guys also had the competitive background in college, I fit in with that with my competitive background in college. I know how to function on a team, what to do on the team. And it isn't just me out there going, okay, go find some clients and work with them. Believe me, I don't know it all and I never will know it all. So the knowledge goes both ways of educating clients, but also I'm learning as well and bringing in the resources to help people. That's what I love.
Yeah, I love that, Andy. You know, it's so important. You know, a lot of the things you brought up there in terms of working as a team. Certainly, I'll say it differently, but I know this is what you meant in a different way in terms of, you know, working together with you, is that clients delegate that responsibility of putting them in the best possible financial position we possibly can, and that's a element of faith too, in terms of them allowing us to do what we do and having the faith that we are going to execute on that as well. It's also right, a two-way street. We're big believers in financial planning and designing that roadmap for them. So while it is our responsibility to make recommendations that are in their best interests to achieving those goals, it's a two-way street in the sense of they have a responsibility too, right, of following that plan, right? And, you know, whether it's contributing a certain amount of money to their retirement accounts or their individual accounts on a regular basis. But the fact that, which I love to hear you say, that we all work as a team and we work as a team along with our clients, is one of the most fulfilling things in this industry for me. And I know it is for you both as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So whether it's, you know, the financial industry type of conversations or just with individual clients, what is a topic or a question that you've been hearing a lot about or been having conversations about recently?
Something that I've been hearing from clients, because you're hearing it touch other industries as well, is artificial intelligence, AI.
Oh, right.
And so I'm hearing from clients that are saying, Andy, what do you think? What are you going to see in AI in the investment world? So I promptly say, let me put that on hold and let me talk to somebody that's got his finger on the pulse.
Put me in the spot of how that's all gonna,
exactly.
Okay. No, yeah, I mean, that acronym, I suppose if you were to look back and do a Google search or some sort of audit on how many times over the last year or so that the AI term or acronym has shown up, I'm sure it's grown substantially, right? It's something that's in the news, and rightly so. You know, artificial intelligence is really interesting. Let me ask you this. I'll turn the question back to you for a second. When are your first, and this is for both of you, but when are your first real recollections of the impact of the internet? Like, I have mine, I'll share mine as well. But, you know, when you think of your first recollections of the internet having an impact of some sort in your life, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, mine was probably seeing, I was at a mutual fund company. them handing out Blackberries to us.
Oh,
And
right.
you could, yeah, and you could see
Blackberries.
your emails while you're on the road, and it's also a
Right.
phone. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. You know,
That's
that's
that
that's what,
that's
yeah.
amazing. I forgot about the Blackberries. What about you, Karen?
I I think my first experience of it was when I was in college,
Mhm.
and being able to use email.
Yeah.
I had to march down to the computer lab to check my email, but it was there, and it was a way to communicate with people that I was far away from.
Mm,
And it was exciting,
mm,
and just a whole different, way of communicating that was new, and
mm.
by virtue of just being so new, it was kind of exciting. So it's been a
Yeah.
while.
And that's really interesting, guys. And if you really think about it, I mean, we're not really much more than 2 decades, give or take,
Yeah,
from that point,
yeah,
right?
Mhm.
When you could argue, or you could make a case that the internet itself was becoming more mainstream, like, oh, they were handing, like you said, Andy, they were handing out Blackberries, or emails in college and everything. And we talked before about information, in terms of, I was in the context of research, but information moving so quickly nowadays.
yeah.
um I don't know why, but it always, not necessarily going back then, but I it always like um comes up in my mind when I'm at the airport and I get off a plane, and um I take out my phone and I go to an application on my phone, and it already has my home address programmed in, and I hit a button, and then magically, and I mean that almost literally, magically, a car appears, right? And you get in and it brings you to your location, your home. Now that's all right. That's all, using Uber and Lyft and using the internet, that's all second nature to us nowadays, right? I mean, it's just an everyday type of thing that most people, it's like flipping the electricity on your house, right? But that's not even 2 decades old, right? And think about the rate of change that equates, that in terms of, well, look, that example of Blackberries that you brought up, Annie. So the ability to check your email and communicate with folks, or rather than being out in the street, maybe not too many years before that, having to go to a payphone, right? I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
No,
Or whether it's my example of, you get to the airport, you have to either find a cab, or you have to go to a payphone and say, hey, call a family member, I landed, can you come pick me up? Or whatever the case may be. The rate of change in technology has never ceased to amaze me. And it's one of those things too, just like everything else in our lives, we're busy living our lives, right? So these things kind of float in, and we don't necessarily see this like whopping change right away. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, try this. And like, oh, that's pretty cool, and it happens kind of slowly. But then again, how much has the world changed in less than 20 years? I submit it's changed substantially. And that's the internet, by and large, and all the offshoots of that. So you bring up AI, machine learning, and the applicability of machines to get a lot closer to thinking, acting, executing either like human beings or more efficiently in some cases than human beings. And what kind of impact does that have? We can look at it at the world perspective, but just take it down to an individual company. The more efficient, the more innovative a company can be, the more cost effective a company can be. I was talking with one of my clients who's also a friend. He's in the artificial intelligence consulting space, and he's working with a mayor of a large city. And this particular city has an issue with their infrastructure being dilapidated, being needed to be upgraded. And if you take an example like a bridge anywhere, that's an old bridge, and concrete, steel, what have you, cracks over time. And how do you know when it's time to fix the bridge? Well, I suppose traditionally you have to have a team of engineers, and you have to have them go out and drill and look for cracks and bring it back. And talking to him, a many month process to just evaluate something like that. Whereas something like artificial intelligence, they're running smart drones flying underneath the bridge and pinpointing and identifying all the areas of weakness in a matter of minutes that would otherwise take months after months just to identify things, much less process how you're going to go and fix it. Think about things like that and how much money that saves the city, how much more quickly they can address problems and make our lives more efficient. So artificial intelligence to me, while in some ways, which I get it, it's something like, oh, we don't understand as much about it. So it's kind of like the sci-fi type of thing that maybe it's a little unnerving sometimes to think about, hey, what happens? But I also remember years ago, remember when they cloned that sheep?
Yes.
Remember that way? I don't know how many years ago, but that was at least like 20 years ago or so.
I want to say that was in the 90s, I thought.
Yeah. And I remember watching that on TV and being scared. You had this press conference. I'm like, well, what does this all mean? And then there was a big hoopla in the media, but then that kind of floated away, and didn't hear a lot about it as time went along. But yeah, the impact of technology just in general, but in particular artificial intelligence and the things that we're able to do today, and what's really incredible to me from an investment standpoint is the rate of change that can impact a company's profitability, the efficiency of the operations, the innovations that they're able to make. That all equates to stronger companies in a lot of ways. And stronger company means eventually stronger investment holdings, stronger investment choices that really impact our clients' long-term real life returns. So it's something that is tremendously interesting. The world's still learning a lot about it, but it's certainly today impacting and will continue at a greater rate of change, impacting companies and improving and making things better as time goes along. I firmly believe that. And I'm excited about what that possibility is, because if the internet, the last 20 years, and we've seen that, it might sound crazy. I just think the rate of change is exponential, and it continues to go faster and faster, which is somewhat unnerving at times, but also equally, if not more exciting about what are some of the things that are going to be commonplace 5 years from now or 10 years from now that's not even on our mind today. It's an exercise that I go through a lot about, having these crazy thoughts about what if. It's really interesting.
Very.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're at time, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge how much I enjoyed having you guys on the podcast today. This was great, not only to introduce you to the greater Beck Bode audience, but I really appreciate you sharing your backgrounds, your thoughts, and some good questions here too. Really appreciate you guys and your time today.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. This was fun.
I agree. And for all of you that are listening and tuning in today, I want to thank you for tuning in. You can always find more information about Beck Bode and all of us at beckbode.com, at our website. We also are on social media, Instagram at Beck Bode, Facebook, and such. And these LinkedIn and these podcasts will be available in bits and pieces, as time moves along. So I want to thank everybody. Thank everybody for tuning in. And we'll be launching another podcast in the next month or so. So stay tuned for information about that. Thank you, everybody.